Hi, I'm Susan Mancuso, Guidance Director here at Oliver Ames High School. This evening we are hosting our college admissions panel. This is an open invitation to all of our sophomore and junior families as they are starting to have the conversations or continuing the conversations about the college admissions process. We have representatives here from different colleges who will be speaking about various topics related to the college admissions process. We thought it'd be a great idea to hear not only from us but from the people in the field about what that will take. This is an ongoing process as we continue to try to offer a variety of events for families here as they talk about college and post-secondary planning. So we hope this is a very informative evening for you, and we certainly welcome any questions or feedback that you may have. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susan Mancuso. I'm the Guidance Director here at OA. Thank you for coming this evening. This is our second college admissions panel. We've done this, last one was in 2017, so we thought it was time to do another one again. So we're really happy you're able to be here this evening. Junior parent nights, our senior parent nights, we do financial aid nights. There's a lot of activities that we do, and we provide information to families, but we thought, why not go straight to I just want to do quick introductions. We have Christian Viedo, who is the Assistant Director of Admissions from UMass Amherst. We have John Pepin, the Associate Dean of Admissions from Stonehill College. We have Paula Fox, Senior Admission Counselor from Massasoit, and Matt Connolly, Admission Counselor from Bridgewater State University. Now, of course, they may talk a little bit about their colleges specifically, but in general, this is a general conversation about the admissions process. A lot of the highlights that you may have questions about. So we're going to start off with our panel discussion. We'll have a series of questions that they will answer, and then certainly we'll open it up to you folks if you have any questions about the process as well. They're in it, they're in the thick of it, this is what they do, so they can give you some straight information, which I think will be really helpful for you. Over here on my left, we have our counseling team. You guys know Mr. Fitzgerald, Mrs. Nicholson, Mrs. Lukovich, and Mrs. Carney. Okay. So why don't we get started? There's a series of questions that I think a lot of families have. So we're trying to hit the highlights, the most salient details for you. The first one really being about the college essay. The do's and don'ts. What are they looking for in the college essay? What are the do's and don'ts in the process? Because I think college essay is usually one that stumps people a lot, that kids struggle with. So they'll certainly talk to you about what they're looking for in that essay.
Well, I'm ready for it. All right, I'll take it. All right, I'll take this question because on Tuesday I talked about the college essay for 3 hours at Fairhaven High School. It's my favorite topic. It's my favorite part of the application because outside of an interview or an in-person meeting, the college essay is that one moment where you all as students or parents of students who can influence their experience can speak directly with the application reader of that file. It's your opportunity to make the application very personal, very identity-based, talk to us a little bit about your backstory beyond just the numbers. So much of the application is based on your transcript and your grades and what everybody else says about you, what your recommendations say about you. The essay is certainly an opportunity to open the door for the admission counselor to learn more about you beyond just those numbers and objective points of data. In terms of how to make your essay memorable, certainly know who your audience is in this process. Know that you're applying to a university with a diverse admission staff. So if you're choosing controversial or persuasive essay topics, you might turn somebody off, you might turn somebody on. You don't know how it's going to be received. So think of that you're applying toward a diverse set of people with a number of different interests, and you don't want to sound like you know everything and the other people don't know anything. Things to make your essay memorable, I would say, focus on the future in your essay. So many students will talk about past events and the present. Here's what happened to me. Here's what's going on right now. Very few of them, I think, have an eye toward the future, have an eye toward thinking, allowing the admission counselor to see who that student will be on our campuses. I'm actually going to put this down. When we're reading an application, we like to envision that student on the athletic fields, in the dining hall, in the classroom, see how they'll interact with the campus community, how they'll certainly fit in and impact our communities. So if we can get a sense of who you might be in the future as opposed to what you have done, or you can tie those timelines together, you'll certainly have a unique essay. So just a couple of points for me. I don't know if you all would have other.
I can piggyback off that. I think most importantly, just have fun with it. If you really want to get a sense as to who you are outside of the classroom, so really just go on about things you're passionate about, maybe hobbies, stuff outside of the classroom that can really bring more personality to the application.
Yeah. Just to add to that, I tell every student who I talk to just be yourself. A lot of students get trained on how to write appropriate college essays, but there's not really a right way to write a college essay because every individual is their own person. So you're all going to have your own unique essay, and you can literally write about whatever you want. UMass Amherst uses Common App, and they have like a series of questions or topics that you can base your essay on, but they also give you an avenue to just write about what you want to write about. And we don't do interviews. We're a big school, we're public, and we don't do interviews. So this is literally a space on, like you were saying, this is the space on the application where it's kind of like the interview. Besides like your GPA, your SAT scores, like what are you about, what do you bring to the table? And if you're in your essay, you're just being yourself, being unique, writing about things that you're passionate about your experiences, about what you want to do in the future, and just being yourself, that's going to go a long way for the counselor who's reading the essay, because we want students who are just themselves. We can tell when students were prepped to write perfect essays. They're perfect and they're cool and all, but like we're just like, but where's the substance? And the substance comes when you're able to be yourself. So just always remember that, to just be unique and be yourself.
Would you say there are any particular topics or subject areas you would recommend a student avoid in terms of writing an essay, or is it really open to whatever they want to say?
I think what he was saying is about the controversial topics. Is like it's a hit or miss. Sometimes you never know what the reader's experiences are, and although you're not supposed to be biased, it's impossible to not be biased. So when you read certain things, you're just like, oh, that got me the wrong way. So when I read something that I feel like is going to influence me to make a different decision, I have a different counselor read it. But you can always write about whatever you want, just because, why not? I always tell, some of the most common essays I get is like sports injuries and stuff, and I tell my students, stop writing about that. But honestly, it's your own experience. Like I was saying, everybody's an individual, so if you want to write about a torn ACL or a concussion, go ahead, but tell me about like what you learned from it. How was your experience going through it? Even though I read a lot about it, if you tie it into like a life lesson or how you progressed after that, it'll go a long way. So I wouldn't say that there's nothing that you can write about or like topics to avoid, but just be aware and tie it into a lesson that you learned from.
And can you guys speak a little bit about the college visits? Families taking the tours, things like that. Obviously, we recommend it. Can you just speak to it a little bit and explain their value or their worth for getting on campus, and maybe suggest things that families should be doing while they're on campus?
I personally believe it's the most valuable part of the process. I mean, you're going to go and you're going to do a lot of self-searching at home, whether you're Google searching, going on the website, etc. But you're really not going to get a sense of the campus feel and whether or not you're going to feel that fit unless you go and you visit the campus. Definitely recommend for all the schools that you have on your list, visit each campus. You'll slowly but surely narrow down, okay, maybe I don't feel my fit here, this is okay, and these are the schools that I really want to go to.
Definitely, I recommend visiting the school. From my experience, when I was searching for schools, I wanted to be in New York and wanted to be in a big city. And I got there and I'm like, oh yeah, this is not for me. So definitely, look into visiting as many schools as possible on your list. And we have campus tours at all the campuses. You can search on the website and visit the schools that you're choosing. And also, whatever major you're interested in, ask about that when you're at the visit to see what they offer. And you can visit the labs or whatever it is that you're interested in.
Just a couple of practical tips. Whenever you have an experience, the more senses you can tie to something, the better you'll remember it. So if you are going out on tour and you are loving what your tour guide is saying about a specific program or service, take a picture of that space and of that tour guide when they're saying it. and you'll keep it back. You'll be able to recall it, because if you take 5 or 6 tours during April vacation or during the summer, during a short span, everything's going to start to flow together, and it'll be hard to differentiate those colleges and universities from each other. Because we'll all tell you we have wonderful communities. We all have psychology. We all are going to have a lot of the similar things to tell you, like calculus is calculus everywhere. We all have an athletic center. We all have a dining hall with lots of different options. Take pictures of the times and moments that are unique. One other thing, every college is going to have different lingo, different acronyms, different vocabulary for all the different services that we provide. If you don't know what it means, or if your tour guide's being a little obtuse with that, stop them and ask them questions. In a university environment, curiosity is rewarded. We want to know what questions you have. Oh, we live for those questions. The other part about the visit is that demonstrated interest can play a factor in admission, some admission offices. Demonstrated interest being, how often do you engage with us in our admission process? How often do you tell us and raise your hand that you want to be at our campuses? So at some schools, if they're evaluating 2 applicants next to each other and they're identical except one student has visited or done an interview, which one do you think we're going to take? Which one do you think is more likely to attend the school and take us up on our offer? We're more likely to admit that student that's shown interest in us. But you might ask, what if I'm applying to a school in California and I don't have a few $1,000s just to go visit that school? How do I show interest? Email your admission counselors, do virtual tours, ask insightful questions, ask for virtual interviews, all those sorts of things. So we'll deem you, we'll see you with the amount of context and interest you can show from the distance that you are from. Does that make sense? I don't know, I kind of read about that in a circular way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
My view on visiting campuses is different, because during my college search process, I didn't really visit a lot of campuses. I kind of just went to college fairs and I learned from the admissions counselors, and then I did my research online to see what resources they had. But at UMass Amherst, we don't track demonstrated interest, because I think personally it's an access problem, because not everybody can get to the schools. We get a lot of kids from the Boston area, from these areas, and we're 2 hours away. So not every student can come Monday through Friday. Parents can't take work off. Saturdays are Saturdays. Hopefully some parents do work Saturdays and students don't have a car, so how are you going to get to campus? What you were saying about the emails, those can go a long way if you want to just engage with the counselor, like send us a little thank you. I often get like little physical cards, like thank you for meeting with me, come to the school. Like that's nice to get that. We remember those things, especially if we come across your application. But I do recommend visiting the campus, especially if you're one of those type of person who needs to experience it physically and get all the senses, like try the food, see what the library looks like, see what the sporting facilities looks like if you want to go to the sporting games, or like if you want to go to the gym, see what the gym has to offer, or academics. I recommend when you do schedule a tour to any of the schools, hopefully you're able to, like let's say you're interested in psychology, you can go to their department and talk to some of their faculty or people that work there, because they do, well, we offer, like, you could just email them and they'll be willing to meet with you. I'm sure y'all do the same thing. And that can go a long way too. So like besides the tour, what else are you doing to kind of fulfill those senses? I like the senses thing. Like you're talking to the faculty, you're seeing what a classroom might look like, you're seeing what the dorms, the residential halls are going to look like. So make sure you try to just tackle on everything, because there's no limit to what you can do when you're on campus.
And I just want to add that you definitely want to try to go when classes are in session, because a lot of times when students will come, most of the parents will say, like, I wish there was a class going on right now, because they'll come during like a vacation time or in the summer when it's quieter. So if you can, try to go when classes are in session. In the fall is spring semester, it's more lively. You can see picture yourself there, and try not to, if it's like a rainy day or a snowy day, try not to lose your judgment on that, because it might look different when you visit a campus when it's a bad weather day. So either try to go back again to visit the tour on a nice sunny day. But again, definitely visit the campus as much as you can.
And to bounce off, all the more reason to go back again, especially if you're really interested in a school, go to the different milestone events. Most schools are going to have general campus tours. We're going to have open houses, we're going to have admitted student days. So try to visit all of those if you have a school you're really interested in.
And just tying into that in terms of demonstrated interest or points of contact, do you think it's worthwhile or beneficial? There are typically in the spring a lot of open college fairs that families can attend. Do you think it's worthwhile for families to go to the college fairs? And can you kind of talk about why you think it would be helpful for them to go to any of those events?
I'll answer that. So I think that if you have already spoken with the counselor, if you happen to be in the area and like there's other schools at the college fair that you want to go to and you stop by and say hi, that's cool. I just think doing it over and over and over, it's exhausting. It's like I come to Oliver Ames and I do a presentation, and then I have a college fair down the street, and you also go to the college fair, and then you visit the campus, and you come to the admitted students. It's like a lot going. That's exhausting. Imagine doing that for 10 schools. Like it's a lot. But if it is that one school that you love, those multiple engagements with the counselors, it does go a long way because we see it. So I mean, it wouldn't hurt, right?
And if there are schools on your list that are very far away that you want to connect with and say, hey, I'm interested and I'm curious, a lot of distant schools will come to the college fairs, especially during certain weeks in the spring. And you all have a combined college fair with Brockton and Stoughton, right?
We do.
Yeah. Go to that. It'll be helpful, especially if you're looking at schools that are not quite in the local area.
This comes up a lot when we talk to students, and I think hearing it from you would be really great in terms of students' social media presence, their social media profiles. Is that something you take into consideration? Has that ever been a concern? We're always trying to remind them to have, appropriate email addresses, not put anything inappropriate on, their social media platforms. I don't know if that's something from the admission side we can talk to, if it has plays a role or not.
I wonder if we don't have different answers for that.
So personally, as a staff at UMass Amherst, we don't look through the students' social media. If something pops up, like if it's on the news and then they happen to be applicant, we're gonna see it. We don't physically start digging and searching like what's going on your Facebook or your Twitter and your Instagram. Like I feel like although it is public because it's social media, it's also private in a way because it's just weird for an admissions counselor to physically search for you. Unless the student's like, hey, look at my Twitter and puts it in the essays, that's different. Yeah. Because some students do they'll attach their YouTube channel links. Oh, look at these videos of me playing the violin. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. But they're applying to the music program, so it makes sense. But I personally don't go on social media to see what kids are writing on the internet.
We don't either. I definitely say that when you're applying for jobs, though, they definitely look at LinkedIn. They look at your social media accounts. But as far as college, we don't do that actively. Unless you tag us on something, then we might.
It's not a factor unless it crosses our desk for a not so great reason. I don't think.
And if you have a really inappropriate email address, just make it.
Can I just say something about emails?
Yeah.
Just check your emails.
Yeah.
A lot of students just don't check them. I don't know what it is. A lot of parents and students make college admissions emails, so all their information and application updates will go to that certain email. So that could be a good best practice, creating a different email just for when you're applying to colleges, because inboxes get cluttered all the time, and then you might miss an important email. So just make sure you're always checking your email. You have a good method of checking college updates through your email.
Kristen, you just said something about parents, and it just triggered something. This comes up in conversation a lot too. I think we know the answer, but if you could speak to, would you prefer hearing from the student or the parents when it comes to any sort of contact or communication regarding the application process? Because I know this comes up a lot in conversation.
Student. Parents are usually angry at me. It's why didn't my kid apply to something? I can't even talk to you about it because it's under FERPA, so I can't talk about it. The student is literally the only person who's allowed to know about their GPA, their SAT scores, the major they applied to. When parents come and say like, oh, my kid had a 1400 SAT and a 4.0 GPA, why didn't he get this major? I'm like, first of all, I can't even talk about the sport because you're not supposed to know. But I'd rather talk to students just because it's more genuine. Parents, I love y'all. I know that you want the best for your kids, but also let them want the best for themselves as well.
I just want to point out that I actually, as an admissions counselor, called for another student. I'm an advisor as well for a student, and I'm calling about questions about transferring them to the school of their choice. And I'm talking to the admissions counselor, and I'm like, oh, okay, so what do they need to do with this and that? And then at the end, she goes, is there a reason why the student's not calling? So again, they want to hear from the student, and sometimes it is demonstrated interest, so you definitely want the student to call. And I usually tell the students, like, you need to be an advocate for yourself. You have to call and make these appointments and be a resource for yourself. And when you get to college, you're an adult, you have to know whether there's tons of resources, but be an advocate for yourself and come out and show that you're interested. So definitely push them to call.
I actually have can I tell you a story about that this year? This year we had an application that came in, and we received a call from a parent saying, my son Steven is getting a lot of emails from you calling him Kim. Guess who Kim was? Kim's mom. In the comment application, there's a section for preferred name. Mom had filled out the comment application and put her name as preferred name because I'm Kim, I'm running this comment application. So we had to, the student didn't write the application themselves. So students in the room, do your own applications, please. Parents in the room, if they're not doing it, well, sit behind them and make them do it.
Paul, I want to give you an opportunity, if you can speak to really, the community college experience, the two-year college experience, because we do have students who are really on the fence about, whether they're ready to go on to a four-year college or not, or, need that time. So if you could just talk about that experience, I think it's really beneficial for some of our students to hear about all the opportunities that are available.
So we see students from all walks of life. We actually accept all the students coming into Massasoit except for selected admissions programs like the nursing, allied health, respiratory care, radiology, vet tech, those type of programs. But we don't require an SAT, we don't require a college essay. So students that are applying, and we don't require a certain GPA. So students will come in, and they come to a community college for all different reasons. But the number one reason would be saving money. So a lot of times you could be the top student and come to Massasoit, take honors courses, and then transfer to a four-year school. And then we have students that maybe they didn't do so well in their high school years, and they apply to different schools, and they'll tell them, you should start at a community college first, get your GPA up, and then come to Massasoit, go to the nearest community college. So a lot of our students will attend Massasoit. Number one, saving money. The cost of the tuition is ridiculously lower than a lot of different schools. So we probably in the range of $10,000 a year with books included. We're a commuter school, so we don't have dorms. And we also have the mass transfer program. So another reason why students will come is because they want to save money, but they also want to transfer to one of the schools and save even more through mass transfer. So all of the state schools, like Florida State, UMass, Amherst, all of the UMass system. We do have a partnership with Stonehill. The mass transfer benefit is if you have a 2.5 GPA, you leave Massasoit or any community college and you go to one of the state universities or the UMass system, you would have no application fee, no essay, and also guaranteed transfer of credits, guaranteed admission, depending on the program at your four-year school. So I always tell students, check out what their GPA requirements are. Even if you have 2.5, it's not guaranteed, so you want to make sure you know what the GPA requirements are at the school of your choice. And then also, if you have a 3.0, you get all of the above that I just mentioned, no essay, no application fee, and guaranteed transfer of credits, guaranteed admission, depending on the program. And also, you have 100% tuition waiver, so you don't pay tuition to go when you get to your four-year school. So it's a great access for students that are thinking they want to go to one of the universities or a UMass system, save money first, start at community college, and then do that. We also have a partnership with Bridgewater that's part of mass transfer, but it's also MCCDBSU. So students that want to go to Bridgewater, but they want to either wait, save money, start at a smaller school, or whatever the reasons are, they will start at Massasoit, take Massasoit classes, pay Massasoit price, but they looked at as a Bridgewater State student at the same time. So if you're thinking, I want to go to Bridgewater, but I want to save money, I'm going to start off at a community college, which is only Massasoit and Bristol right now that have this partnership. So they would start off there, and they could use their library, their gym, have access to all the student discounts that Bridgewater State students get, and Massasoit. They also can study abroad through Bridgewater's program. They can go to all of their student events. So they're looked at as a student, they're just not paying for that cost, and they're not playing sports for Bridgewater. So if students are interested in BSU, they can start off in that program. It's the only initiative that we have in that sense. They still have the mass transfer benefits. And we have Commonwealth commitment. So Commonwealth commitment is part of mass transfer. The students that are thinking, I definitely want to go to, say, UMass Amherst. I'm going to go to Massasoit first. You have to let us know that you're interested in UMass Amherst. It is Commonwealth commitment, so it's a commitment to UMass Amherst. You have to maintain a 3.0 GPA every semester. You also have to be full-time. And the benefit of that is that you get 10% rebate every successful semester. So finishing off at a 3.0, you get a 10% rebate for tuition and fees. You also get a tuition fee freeze. So if you start in 2019, by the time you graduate, you have to graduate within 2.5 years. If you graduate in 2021, and you enter UMass Amherst, you will pay the price when you started. So if it was 2019 and it cost 20, whatever the cost is. So if it was 20,000 when you started the program, when you get there, if it went up to 30, you're paying that 28,000 if you got into that program in 2019 and you're committed to that school. So that's part of Commonwealth commitment. And again, you still have all those transfer benefits through mass transfer. The 3.0 will give you that tuition waiver already because you have to maintain a 3.0. You have to maintain full-time status, so 12 credits or more. So those are the different options and different ways why students will start off at community college first and then transfer. And even if it's not part of mass transfer and they're trying to go to out-of-state school, they can still do that. I always recommend students reach out to the school of their choice, find out what the requirements are, making sure they take the right courses, the GPA, and all of that.
Can you talk a little bit about, the activities, the sports that are available, at a two-year school?
Yes, thank you. So a lot of students will come to community college, and especially if they're a commuter, whether they go to any school, they just go to school and go home or go to work. So they don't get involved if they're a commuter. We definitely have we have over 44 clubs and activities that you can get involved in. We also have soccer for men and women, basketball for men and women. Actually, our basketball team was number one in the nation this past season. We lost in the finals, but and also we're going to have volleyball. That's going to be a new sport for women. We had softball, so volleyball will replace that. We also have cross country and track and field. So you definitely get involved. Our soccer team as well, men and women, is really good. So if you can, if you are interested in playing sports, unfortunately don't have football, lacrosse. If you're interested in playing sports, you can do that in Division 3.
This one comes up a lot. It's about whether or not, especially for kids who are on the fence or if they're looking at certain schools, should they list a major that they're interested in? Is there a pro or a con to going in undecided? Should they put down a major? Does it make a difference? I don't know if you can talk about that, and it may depend on school, how competitive that program is, but if you can kind of speak about that piece.
I just want to talk real quick about that because at Massasoit, you have to choose a major if you want financial aid. So I think at other schools you could be undecided and get financial aid, but at Massasoit you have to choose a major in order to receive financial aid, and if it's eligible for financial aid. If you are a non-major, you can take courses. You can actually take classes while you're in high school if you're an enrollment student, but you will have to decide on one major. You don't double major, you just pick one major or a certificate program. If it's non-credit, you don't get financial aid for it, but we do offer a payment plan. For Massasoit, you want to pick a major, and if you're not sure what you want to do and you're undecided, we always gear students to liberal arts transfer so they can take their general classes until they decide, or stay in liberal arts transfer when they get to their 4-year school. They've already done all of their GERs, General Education Foundation courses, and then they get to pick their major when they get to their 4 years.
Most students come in the door thinking they know what they want to do, but they change their major like 3 or 4 times before they finally decide.
So you have plenty of time. At most schools, Bridgewater in particular, you have until the end of your sophomore year to fully declare a major, so you're going to have time to experiment, explore around a few different intro classes and different majors, particularly your first year at Bridgewater. You're going to be taking most of those core classes while you're working with your academic advisors, so you're going to have time to figure out what you might want to do. So whether you have something in mind or you're coming in undecided, either or works at Bridgewater. The only program that you do need to know that you want to do in advance is our Aviation Science program. If you're looking at flight training, that's one of those programs where we do have a summer session before the actual fall session, and you need to apply early action by November 15th.
For Stonehill, excuse me, being undeclared doesn't really have much of a bearing on your admission decision or your disability in any way. When you apply undeclared, you can apply undeclared liberal arts, undeclared sciences, and undeclared business. When you declare a major, we do tend to have that in mind when we're reviewing your application. So if somebody's applying into our physics program or into a math program, in the back of my head, I really need to see at least pre-calculus or calculus in terms of math and 4 years of a lab science. If you were undeclared, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for that. But if you're undeclared and then you decide to go into a physics or a math or an engineering or something like that in your first year, know that you're going to be hit with calculus right away. So I think if that's something you absolutely know, I wouldn't recommend going in undeclared to see if you have a better chance, because what goes around comes around. That's going to hit you at some point. The only couple of majors that we have that I don't recommend coming into undeclared for would be our engineering program, because that involves a transfer to the University of Notre Dame, or sometimes our education program, because the practical work happens pretty quickly. You really can only be undeclared for up to a year with our education program, given the amount of pre-practical hours that you need to do in the state of Massachusetts.
So UMass Amherst doesn't do undeclared majors anymore. We do these things called exploratory tracks. Basically, so we're a university. We have 10 different colleges within the university, like the School of Management, College of Engineering, the College of Information and Computer Science. So you can apply for an exploratory track in that specific college. So what that means is basically you're still involved with the college, and you can take certain classes that you need in order to declare your major within that college. It's really confusing. So basically, let's say you want to do engineering, but you don't know what kind of engineering you want to do. You'll apply undecided in the school, and then you'll be able to declare your major after the year is done. You'll work with your advisors to kind of figure it out. On the common application, you'll see that there's a first choice primary major and a second choice major. My recommendation would be to pick, so we do, wow, this is really good. UMass is so confusing. Just because, so we do primary and secondary majors. Some majors are more selective than other majors. For example, it's more selective to get into the business school compared to the major in economics. It's in the social and behavioral sciences column. So I recommend, if you're applying to a selective major like business or computer science or engineering or nursing, your second choice major should be something that's not selective. Follow me? So basically you can't pick like engineering and business, because they have similar requirements. So if you're not going to get admitted into one of them, you're probably not going to get admitted into the other one. So I recommend doing like business and math, or engineering and biology, whatever combination of selective versus unselective. So you have two choices of major. If you're not admissible to one of the selective programs, or a program that's harder to get into, then we'll consider you for your second choice major. Hope that makes sense. It's so confusing. Even though sometimes I can't follow myself.
I just want to mention, like I said earlier about the selective admissions, if you are interested in nursing, respiratory care, radiology, any of those selective admissions programs, you can't apply right away. You have to be in a liberal arts transfer science or liberal arts transfer program, and then do all of the prerequisites, and then we base it off a rubric to get in, and it's a very competitive program, so students that are coming in, we only accept 56 students in a full-time nursing program, 22 in radiology, and 26 in respiratory care. So, and we have hundreds of applicants. So you definitely have to start off as a liberal arts transfer in science, take all the prerequisites, and then apply. And there are deadlines for those. So in your first year, it might be just doing your prerequisites first and then applying.
Could I ask, and this is kind of a general question, but how might a prospective applicant know if your college, if the major they're considering is a selective major?
They question. On our application, we have it in blue, and there's an asterisk on it, and it'll say selective admission. So, and still, students don't know that, and they don't understand what selective means, so they won't. They'll still apply for nursing, and then we'll send them a letter saying you have to go into the bars, transfer science, major first.
It's similar at UMass Amherst when you're on the common application. It'll let you know if you selected 2 selected majors. So it'll kind of give you a warning like, hey, you selected 2, change one. Some students don't listen anyways, and they'll still select 2, and then it's kind of just like, it's just sad because it's like, oh, you can't get admitted to business or engineering. It's like, where do we put you now? You're going to be waitlisted or denied or deferred, and it's just like, you're just going to be in this limbo. And we don't really know, because I'm not just going to put you in a different program, that might not be something that you want. So make sure that you select the non-selective ones as well. There is a warning, so make sure that y'all are reading. The parents, if you're helping your kids, make sure they're reading too.
This is another question we get quite often, and I just wanted to know your thoughts on, you know, sometimes kids will say, what do colleges prefer? Would they prefer, you know, an A in an honors level class or a B in an advanced placement or an AP level class? They're just trying to figure out what would be a better level or fit for them, and I don't know if you have any thoughts or opinions on that.
Well, I'll be quick with my answer. We don't require that, but if you have an AP course, we do give you college credit, so you can come in with an English class or a math course, college credit. You don't have to take that course, or even take the placement test for that. That necessary.
And we take both the honors and the AP. Honors is 0.5 credit scale. AP is 1. If it's A's and B's,
I would say just stick with the class that you have, but if you're really, really, really struggling in like an AP class, take a step down to an honors level and see how that goes.
My answer is similar to yours. We like when students challenge themselves in terms of the difficulty of the classes that they take. If you're taking like an AP class and you're not doing well in it, it's okay to take a step back because students are doing a lot with all the level of their classes, whether it's honors and AP and extracurricular activities and doing SATs and all those things factor in. So if you're overwhelming yourself, you can take a step back, that's okay. We don't want you to stress out because the college application process and the search process is so stressful when you're applying to many schools. So it's okay to take a step back. And if it's just A's and B's, that's okay too. But it's okay you can also challenge yourself as well if you can take on the work.
If you can handle it, APs can offer a tremendous benefit for the credit reasons. If you think you can achieve in those, that AP range, certainly go for it. There's lots of schools will take that credit. If you get 4 or 5 on the exam, we'll give you 3 credits at Stonehill, comparable to what you've taken, which gives you a little bit more flexibility in your schedule, especially as you get into your junior, senior year, and you're thinking toward internships, or you might want to study abroad. If you have those credits already in your transcript, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room to be able to do more of those things.
And just something quick for students, try and recognize if you know that a class is going to be hard, if you want to challenge yourself, that's okay. But we get a lot of emails saying, mostly in senior year, students taking really hard classes, and then around this time we get emails like, oh, we dropped this class and now we're taking this class. And sometimes the classes aren't comparable because they'll go from AP calculus to an elective or just randomness. Exactly. So just be aware of the classes that you're taking because that can also have influence on the decisions that we make. Because we see that as some students just trying to for lack of a better term, scheme. They try to scheme on their applications where they look like they're taking really hard classes, but then come March they try to get rid of those classes so they can do better on their for their academics. So just be aware of the classes that you're selecting.
And can you speak to the admissions process as a whole? Really, I think a lot of times families are like, what do they think is the most important? Is it GPA? Is it test scores? Is it extracurriculars? Is it course levels? If you could just speak to your schools and just really what you're looking for, if something is more ranked higher in terms of the process, or if it's more of a holistic approach? If you could kind of talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so for Bridgewater, we're looking at GPA first and foremost. We're looking for above a 3.0 and up for a straight admission. If you have below a 3.0, then we use the state SAT sliding scale to determine whether or not you're accepted. SAT is optional otherwise at Bridgewater, and then everything else comes into play if you're closer on the line. So if you're close to that GPA mark, your SATs are kind of close as well, that's when we'll start looking at the additional extracurricular activities, what are you doing outside the classroom, and look more at the full picture to make the determination.
Okay, we don't require SATs or GPA or essay for that pre-application. However, when you attend Massasoit, if you want to keep a certain GPA and you want to get involved in the clubs and activities, because when you're doing that right now in high school, applying for colleges that look at the clubs and activities you've joined and you've been in, you want to do the same thing at Massasoit because you're eventually going to transfer, so they're going to see all of that as well.
At Stonehill, GPA and strength of curriculum are the two most important factors. Our average GPA at Stonehill is right about a B+, A- in all of your courses, with a couple of APs, a handful of honors courses. That's our average student coming in. We're fully test score optional, so if you send test scores to us, they can make an impact because you've told us that they are important. So here's my test score, please evaluate it in the context of your pool. So a strong test score can help you, and a weaker test score could hurt you if you submit it. If you don't submit a test score, we don't care, doesn't matter. We're not going to ask you for another essay or another requirement or anything like that. We'll lean on your GPA and the courses that you take because statistics tell us that a better predictor of student success in college is the GPA in your high school classroom and the classes that you take for 4 years, rather than that handful of hours on a test.
Do you have, just as a question, that you have a when to submit cutoff for SATs, roughly?
Not really. I think it's highly dependent on who you are as a student. So if you're a 4.0 student and you've taken every last possible challenge here at OA, but your test scores are right at Stonehill's average, you might not want to submit them because they're not commensurate, they don't follow the same path. Likewise, if you're below our GPA average, but your test scores are through the roof, you want to send them because it's above our average requirements. Does that make sense? It's highly contextual depending on who you are and the kind of classes you've taken and how you achieve it, I would say. But our average test scores in the ballpark of 1,200, a few points each year. On the SAT, if you take the ACT, it's about 26.
At UMass Amherst, we look at a combination of both your GPA and your SATs, first and foremost, to determine if you're academically fit for the university. And then for students who are like borderline, that's when we take into account the extracurricular activities and all the other factors to make it more of a holistic review. So basically, kind of similar to what Bridgewater stated.
And just to add, if you're looking to apply SAT optional, try to do that early action before November 15th. You can get that application in and then submit all your test scores after that. Just because if you don't quite meet those requirements for the early action deadline, then we'll just put you back to pool for the regular decision. And then in that case, you can submit SAT scores or take them if you haven't taken them.
Just quickly, like extracurricular activities and your essay and recommendation letters do play a factor in like if you're going to get an invitation to the honors college or a merit scholarship and things like that. So always keep that in mind when you're applying to my school and also your school.
Yeah.
Because I know when you were speaking about Massasoit, you mentioned cost, and you just mentioned merit scholarship money. So I don't know if individually you guys might be able to talk to just relative to the admissions process, how families can be mindful about kind of the cost of attendance at your school, the kind of considering the initial cost of attendance and then what they might anticipate as far as a potential financial aid offer, and you can just reference it for maybe folks in the crowd who don't know what merit-based money is versus need-based money.
Okay, so UMass Amherst is a public school, so we typically don't meet 100% need for all our students. So it's very rare that students come to the school for free based on the financial aid package that we give them, just because we're a state university and a lot of the funds are already subsidized, so the cost of attendance is already a lot less expensive than other schools, generally less expensive than other schools. But we do offer need-based scholarships for students who are of low income, and merit-based scholarships for students who excel as well. So, and also I just recommend students to apply to other scholarships in your hometowns or in the area. I know the counselors probably try to nail you down saying apply to these scholarships, and students are like, not really. You should do it because you might be one of those 3 kids who are applying because the rest are saying no, and you have a third of a chance to get free money to help you pay for school. Whether it's like $100, $500, $1,000, that could be one book, because books are expensive. I'm serious, like books are expensive, and you never know the money that you're going to need to help you pay for school. So make sure, for UMass Amherst at least, don't depend on the FAFSA to cover 100% of your need for the school that you're going to. Also do your own research on other scholarships because it can go a long way.
At Stonehill, we have 3 different types of aid. We have need-based scholarships and grants, which is based on a combination of your family's finances and also your academic eligibility. So we have we have a preferential need-based packaging system. So the stronger academic students tend to have a little bit more of their family need met because we're looking to enroll stronger academic students in our pool. And you'll find that a lot of private schools will do that. Merit-based scholarships at Stonehill are purely based on your academic work and the way we review your application. So GPA, test scores if you submit them, strength of curriculum. Those are the only factors that go into merit scholarships. They're not based on any of your activities or your leadership. Your activities and leadership and recommendations play certainly a very important role in whether we select you for admission or not, but they don't have a bearing on the academic money that you receive from us. Merit scholarships at Stonehill range from, this year, they will range from $10,000 up to $25,000 per year. Our total cost of attendance, if you commute, is about $43,000. If you live on campus, our sticker price is about $60,000. Right? 1% of our students pay that full price, though. So 99% of our student body receives some type of financial aid. A lot of that is in merit scholarships. A lot of that is in need-based grants. About 20 to 25% of our students are first-gen students. So I'd like to think that our financial aid is pretty competitive depending on what your family need is and how you work in our process. Oh, and the third type of aid is athletic aid. I know you all offer that. As a D1 school, we're a D2 school, so we offer pretty competitive scholarships, but they're not full scholarships unless you're a basketball player. But they can really help. Any sort of free assistance you can get in this process, you should fight and claw for those things and apply for as many scholarships as you can get. Does anybody here work for Roche Brothers at all? Nobody? If anybody did, they've got a great endowed scholarships at Stonehill. And I'd like to mention that colleges and universities have endowed and restricted scholarships for particular purposes, particular majors, families that have an affinity for those universities where maybe a physics student from Easton might have certain funds allocated for them. So when you walk into those financial aid offices at your colleges and universities, you should ask them about those specific opportunities. How do I get those additional funds? Really ask for them and apply for them because you might be one of 3.
The Roach Brothers, 4 years free tuition, right?
It probably depends on the student, but I know it's a lot. I don't know the exact funding amounts. They're a wonderful family. We're so lucky to have that funding.
I have a quick question about, we're kind of always, kids that maybe are below a certain GPA, say for example below a 3.0, would you still recommend them applying for early action, or do you think they should show strong first quarter senior grade?
So the question is really, a student who maybe is struggling academically, should they apply early action or regular decision? What's the pros and cons to that?
I would just advise always apply early action if you can. I mean, like I said before, if you're not going to quite meet those requirements, we're going to send you back to pool anyway, to the general admission, and then in that case, you'll get the first or second.
Does every school do that, or does some just reject outright?
I can't speak for the other schools, but Bridgewater.
You would automatically go to okay.
So UMass Amherst does the same. If you apply early action, if you don't have, typically we look for students 3.0 or above to be considered for admissions or deferred to regular decision. Basically, if you apply to early action, you're not directly admissible to your major because of academics or anything in your application. we'll defer you to a regular decision to read your application again once you have like updated test scores or updated transcripts. But like I said earlier, make sure you read your emails, because we do send an email to deferred students to basically say, yeah, I still want to be considered for a regular decision, and you have to say yeah to that. If you don't say yeah, then you get denied. So you have to make sure that you're keeping up with your emails.
We have a very similar process. We do deny some students at early action, but it's very few, and it's those that we don't think would make it to our standard, even if they had a fantastic first semester. If you get a defer letter, I know it's very disappointing to receive that news. However, it means that the school believes that you have an opportunity. We believe that you have the potential to get to that admissible point. So it means work as hard as you can and show interest and say that you want to be part of that pool so that you aren't denied later. Because the students that are deferred and don't show the interest, we don't have a lot of incentive to admit them after the fact, because we don't think they're going to come anyway.
Sure. There was a question on the table about offering, what sort of services are offered for students with disabilities, whether it's physical, learning disability, anything like that. If you could speak to maybe some of the opportunities or programs that are available to students.
At Massasoit, a lot of times at your high school, you might have an IEP or a 504. We don't require the IEP to come to Massasoit or the 504. What we do require is to meet with a disability services coordinator, and they will ask for documented disabilities, usually from your doctor's office, and we use that to make accommodations or recommendations on what you need. So if you need more tests, you need more time on your test, you can do that through disability services and accommodations. Sometimes students might need a quieter space, they want to be alone to take the test. So we have space for them to do that through the disability services. So definitely, I think every school offers a disability services office. You just, again, be an advocate for yourself and find out who where the services are, and find out what you need to bring to show documentation and what type of accommodations you need.
Yeah, and all the same services, Bridgewater's, and just one thing to add, if you're applying and you are on an IEP, definitely send that information over. In that case, we won't require your SATs.
Say, if you submit 504 IEP, you can get your SAT or ACT exam kind of excused, so you don't have to submit those scores.
It's not the same as don't. Just don't send them because we test out.
Oh, yeah.
If you feel as though they don't represent you, that's fine. But we don't evaluate IEPs in my office because we're not qualified to do that. But yeah.
You have a disability service.
Oh yes, yeah. Fully featured. We call it Office of Accessibility Resources. And about 10 to 15% of our student population meets regularly with representatives from that office to discuss accommodations. If we think you can be successful at Stonehill and graduate and do well, and you need some accommodations, you will absolutely have them. Technological assistance, note takers to help you in class, all sorts of different things. You just have to ask for it. That's the difference between high school and college. You have to self-advocate. You have to be really, really good at it. And be okay with asking difficult questions, because as I said in the beginning, curiosity is rewarded in college.
So I was just going to ask one last question to wrap up, and then we're going to turn it over for any questions you folks may have. But is there any final statement, final piece of advice, any parting words that you think would be helpful for our families to know during this whole process?
I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If you're able to, definitely visit all the schools on your list. It's going to help you navigate where you might feel that fit. At the end of the day, you want college or university to be financially affordable for you. You obviously want your major, but you want to feel at home. So definitely visit all the campuses if you can.
And I am I would say, clearance shopper. So if you like to shop at clearance, use coupons, those type of things, then look at it as when you go to Massasoit Community College, it's like using a coupon, using a coupon to save money. So definitely look at your school choice, check out the financial aid packages you're going to get. At Massasoit, we do offer Pell Grant, Mass Grant, and loans, but we also give students, if they are eligible for Pell Grant and Mass Grant, that first, and then the loan will come optional. and that's the same for all the schools. If you're applying for a loan, you want to make sure if it's something that you can do and afford, or if you need to define it or decrease it, you have the option to do that. You don't have to take all of the loans. Definitely look into that, as financial is the most important piece of applying to college. Is you can get in, but can you afford to pay for it? So definitely look at those options.
I would say in this process, especially if the students that are your sophomores and juniors in high school now, what you know and love and value and believe may change over time. 2/3 of college students in the United States change their major or add a major before they graduate. So there's always some element of transformation. You might take a new class that will totally change your perspective, change your career path, and that's absolutely okay. The important thing to do right now is to consider why you're considering college or university. What's your motivation behind it? Are you doing it because you're supposed to? Because somebody's telling you to? The better answer is you're doing it because you're self-motivated for it. So find out what you really love, find out what you value, find out what you believe, know what you're talented, where your talents lie, and try to blend those two things as you apply. If you're thinking critically about it, instead of just going through the motions because it's something you should do or is supposed to do, you will have a way better process and you'll be so much more informed and you'll ask much more insightful questions.
My advice is just, it's okay to start early, like sophomore year or junior. Like it's okay to start early and start doing your research on what types of schools you might want to go to. Like if it's a big school, if it's a small school, in terms of population size of students and faculty. Where do you want to go to school? Do you want to go to a private? Do you want to go to public school? It's okay to start doing research on the types of schools that you might want to go to, especially starting early, because you'll be more equipped when you start actually finding those schools that you want to apply to when you discover the major you want to do. And come around junior year and beginning of senior year, when you're applying to these schools, you'll be ahead of the game. It's better, like we were talking about earlier, applying early action, knowing the schools you want to go to. So when you apply earlier, you find out earlier, and you just know. So I think starting early is an okay thing to do.
I want to turn it over to you now. I don't know if any of you have some general questions for the panel or for us, anything you want to know about, something we didn't cover, clarification. Yes.
So, here to apply early action, do all schools release financial aid packages with early action? Some do, some don't.
So the question was about the release of the financial aid package if you're applying early action. Does it vary from school to school? Do they release it at a certain time?
You'll get a different answer from every school you apply to. All of our timelines are very different.
And it also, it's also depending on the student too. Like, you should do your financial aid application early as well. If you do it early with your early action application, then you'll try to get it in at the same time. You will receive like the need-based and the merit-based and other scholarships that the school has to offer with your decision, but like in terms of FAFSA and from what the federal government gives, it comes at a different time. So if you do it early with your application, chances are you're going to get it at the same time.
And deadlines are very important because some schools have priority scholarship deadlines. That's something to consider. So if there is a financial aid deadline, you want to meet it as best as you can.
What is the cost to apply applications?
The question is about costs for each of the schools up here.
To apply.
To apply.
$50 application.
Zero.
$60, but we'll waive your fee if you ask really nicely or have significant need. We don't want, none of us wants a fee to be a barrier to somebody wanting to apply. So if it's a real barrier for your family, just ask. And I believe guidance staff has the discretion to be able to say to the school, hey, let them apply for free. Yep.
Free and less expensive. I'm the most expensive one too.
So just what I would mention too, what the gentleman from UMass mentioned about checking emails. Emails for kids at this point are oftentimes an antiquated form of communication. I realize, but it is the primary form of communication colleges use. So I would echo the importance of checking your email. Also because if you communicate with the college ahead of time, oftentimes they may email you a fee waiver. Or if you visit a college, they may provide you with a fee waiver. So make sure that as you're going through the process, you are checking the forms of communication that you have provided the college for multiple reasons. One of which is that they may incentivize you to apply through any way, shape, or form. There are some colleges that also have something called priority applications, where they may offer a direct application that waives certain required parts of the typical application process, like application fees or essays, potentially. Although as an aside, you should write your essay regardless.
I just want to reiterate on the email. Although you're checking your emails now for the contact through the different colleges you're applying to, once you get to college, our official form of contact is your email, your college email. So when you get to, say, Massasoit, it'll be your massasoit.edu email. And anytime you get any communication, it's going to go through your Massasoit email. So you're going to hear that again when you get to the college. Check your email, check your Massasoit email. You can link your personal email to Massasoit, always get it. But you're going to hear that again when you get to college. We're over here first and over here. Yep.
Does legacy play any factor in the admissions process? If I went to school and my daughter wants to apply there, does that factor in at all?
So the question is about legacy, if a legacy would factor into an admissions process.
For us, no.
I think it can, but it never makes or breaks a decision. It's never like, oh, they're a legacy, they're getting in. Sure. No.
Here.
Jonathan said they do an interview. How do you advise a student to prepare for the interview?
Yeah, I love the interview. Interviews are optional at Stonehill, but recommended. So, I think if you want to be the best candidate possible and you want to give yourself the best shot, especially if you think the school might be a reach for you, always, always interview. It's another opportunity to tell your story, give some depth and breadth behind an application. In terms of preparing for it, be ready to talk about your academic history, the things that you love, the struggles that you had, the things that you're most proud of. Be able to talk about the faculty that you've interacted with and tell us a little bit more about who you are as a student and a community member. Sometimes we throw curveball questions at students, creative questions to help them think on their feet. But for the most part, like for us, it's not a high-pressure conversation. It's more, we want to hear your interest and we want to see how you might be a community fit. And especially if you have something that you think would raise a red flag in an admission office, like let's say you had a couple of D's on your transcript in your sophomore year, and you don't tell us why anywhere in your application, an interview is a great opportunity to say, here's what happened to me that year. It was really difficult, and I had these life circumstances going on, and this is what happened, and this is how I got through it, and the work that I put into it. So I would encourage a student not to feel really nervous about it, but just to be themselves and be prepared to talk about their history and kind of open the door to us a little bit more and provide more depth to their application.
One thing I do want to mention about the interview is that not every school requires or offers an interview. However, if they do, we do encourage it. Sometimes the student has to apply first before getting an interview, so they apply, and that would trigger the interview process afterwards. And interviews can vary. It could be with an admissions rep, it could be with an alumni, it could be with a current student, it could be on campus, or it could be local. So it's just a matter of checking each college to see what they require with an interview.
And if you're applying to schools that are at a distance and you know that the interviews are optional there, let's say you're applying to a school in Colorado and you know that a rep from Colorado is coming out here for some regional college fairs, hey, so-and-so, I'm interested in your school, how can I do a local interview? Because I do a lot of interviews on the road but not far away from Massachusetts. You'll remember those students more than anything else.
I know that the students are advised to get referral letters from a teacher. How are those used in the application process, and are those of any value?
So teacher letters of recommendation, how are they utilized in the application process and how valuable are they in the process?
say they're valuable in the standpoint that it is another opportunity to tell more about the student from someone else's perspective, someone that they've worked with. At Bridgewater, they're not required, they're optional, so more in our case, it's if the student's really on that line, submit the essay, submit the letters of recommendation, just so we can make a determination and look at the whole picture.
We only require the recommendations for select admissions program.
I think a great recommendation, like a great essay, can elevate a student who we might be on the fence about. So at Stonehill and many private schools and some public schools too, we have a committee process where I will be the first reader for Oliver Ames. I'd make a recommended decision. It goes to a second reader, and if we're still not sure what we want to do, we'll send it to a committee with all 13 admission counselors in the room. And then we look at your application all together on a screen. And an excellent recommendation can help put you in the admit bin, so to speak.
From you guys.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and we'll put it up and we'll talk about it.
Saying we require just one from an academic source, and it'll just elevate your application.
So I know when you evaluate GPAs, you add cap for honors and 1 point for AP. What about dual enrollment credits from a full year?
So the question was about, looking at the GPA, is it recalculated, but also factoring in outside things like dual enrollment courses?
For everybody.
Yeah.
Whoever wants to respond.
Well, I'll say that I think I'm the only school that doesn't add the weight to the GPA. We do a fully unweighted recalculation of your GPA, so it's kind of bare bones, and then we add the weight back in with a curriculum rating. So we evaluate what's offered to you here at OA and see how you take advantage of the offerings here. So we have your unweighted GPA in the context of your curriculum. If you have a dual enrollment, we see that on par with an AP, on par with a college course, because it is. And if you take the college course on a college campus, typically we'll give you credit for it. But we don't add a weight back in. But we love it.
Something it's the same for us. Dual enrollment is a full point. It's kind of like taking an AP course, so you get a full point added to the GPA.
We talked about our GPA process transcript. So just so that parents are aware, maybe kids are aware, so we provide your kids with a GPA based off of a weighted 4.0 scale. But I think like the admissions folks are mentioning, the colleges, each individual college reserves the right to recalculate your child's GPA however works best for their school. So the GPA your child has with us is a fairly accurate representation of the GPA that the colleges are going to have. We use a pretty traditional way of coming up with the GPA, but it might be slightly different than the process the individual colleges use. Also, if your child is taking a dual enrollment course, we also will list that on their high school transcript, although it does not factor into their OA GPA directly.
To give you a better sense of our recalc, we're basically taking all the classes besides shop classes, health, gym. Doesn't mean you should just go up and tank health and gym, but we're taking and recalculating all like the electives, the general math, science, English, etc.
That's the microphone.
Any other questions? Yes.
If you do early admission, are you locked into that school?
Not at Bridgewater.
If you do early decision, so every school is going to have a different name for it, but if it says binding on the website, it basically means you're locking into kind of like a contract, so to speak, where if you're admitted under an early decision timeline, you have to withdraw all of your other applications to other schools and then commit to that school and pay the enrollment deposit. So early decision at Stonehill and many other schools has an advantage to the student in that usually it's slightly easier to get in. There's a higher admission rate because it's an incentive for us to take you. If you're telling us, I'm early decision, you're saying that you will enroll if we admit you. We love enrollment. We love butts and seats, as some people would say crudely, but it helps us. So if we think you're admissible, we think we would retain you and graduate you and you would be able to do the work. Early decision is a wonderful benefit for us too. And to be honest, I think it's more of a benefit for the college than it is the student in some cases. But if a school is your absolute #1 choice and you know you want to go there, and you would absolutely enroll and be happy and successful there, and you can do the work, early decision can be great for you because you're done with your process in December or February, depending on which timeline that you choose at a number of schools. Lots of committed student athletes will choose early decision because they've already committed to a coach. Why not just make the commitment official in the admission process and be done with it? But if you have to look for that word binding or contract, or your school counselors would know way more about other schools than I would.
Yeah, just to differentiate, the early decision, as John mentioned, is binding. Early action is not binding, and you can still apply to other schools. You can weigh your options with your financial aid packages. You're not locked into anything with early action.
What I would piggyback on that is, as your children are building their list, once they get to a point where they feel fairly confident they're interested in applying for a school, really look at the ways that college allows you or allows them to apply to their school. So a lot of colleges will have an early deadline, potentially early action, which is typically non-binding, which means you hear back sooner, but typically have until May 1st to decide if you're going to attend. Early decision, like John mentioned, where you would, as a parent, be required to also fill out part of the application confirming that you understand the early decision agreement for that application to be processed. And then some colleges do something called rolling admissions, which just means that they have a start timeline, typically in the fall, and once that college receives all the information they need to process the child's application, they will notify you as soon as they are able to. And like I said, those non-binding applications, typically kids have until May 1st to fully commit. However, some colleges might incentivize your children to decide sooner by doing things like, say, offering priority housing the sooner that they decide they're going to attend.
Last question, and then we'll wrap up. And we'll be here for other questions as well.
For the likes of Stonehill and Bridgewater, how do you determine which accepted students get housing?
Oh, we guarantee housing, sorry.
No,
We guarantee housing if you're admitted and you want to live here. We'll have a spot for you.
We'll have a spot for you as well. Our housing is typically open. A lot of our students, particularly Bridgewater, being in the South Shore area, a lot of them do commute, so there will be space in housing.
UMass Amherst has required housing for first-year students, so it's guaranteed, unless you live like 2 minutes away from the school, like in Amherst, but typically students are coming from other places. So it's guaranteed housing as a first-year student, and then you do have access to housing as a second year, third year, and senior year as well.
I do want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank the panel for speaking this evening. We will all be up here and available for any additional questions you may have, but thank you very much.